Hi everyone, welcome back. Part 3 of the podcast concerning Yuga cycles, events 2012, Fibonacci, Anti-Kryst, and some other topics to add to it. The arcs and alignments, nomadic currents, crystal seed atom versus metatronic seed atom, transmutation, inner alchemy process, alignment to arcs, magnetic pole, realignment mission, and a bit more. I mentioned in the first segment, I think, that the crystal dream seed is the secret to manifestation, pretty much the control center of the brain and the whole biology in which the body functions. It's the crystal seed, or the crystal dream seed, is the control center of all the functions of the brain, and it's pretty much the monad that's been shut off for a very long time and we haven't had access to. But if we have the D12 frequency restored, we can gain access to the monad again. So I'll speak to that a little more in a bit. The crystal seed atom is think of it as the exact opposite to the metatronic seed atom. Once the D12 crystal's frequency hits, the frequency is either accepted or rejected based on the person's preference and what they're anchored in, whether they're anchored in Krystic or Metatronic frequency. So it's the genetic code of the person will be chosen based on what their preference is and what their genetic code imprint is. There is no in between. The currents of the Hitharo and the Hithalong net right now are so strong that it's pushing people one way or another, and that's why we have a split in the shield right now, because we have we have two timelines. We have a timeline that's anchored into the crystal seed atom, and we have a timeline anchored into the Metatronic seed atom. And people are choosing this side or this side. There is no in between. Sometimes that in between is just a period of like contemplation and, learning a little bit more about, maybe time to wake up and things like that. But eventually everybody will go on their chosen path and what works for them. Many have anchored the Metatronic and don't know about it, and that's the sad part. But they still have the ability to transmit the grids and use heliothalic frequencies. So these are frequencies that we haven't had access to in a very long time, and they are back here now. We have access to them now. So in regards to the arcs, just want to speak a little bit about the arcs. They actually run through your shields as they do in the planet's shield. So we have a shield below the feet, and that represents when we say the D12 shield, that's below the feet. That's the horizontal shield. And there's many other arcs that are vertical shields. When they activate our entire monadic template. And that process began after 2012, but I think it started a little bit earlier than that. Because time right now is a little bit fluid, so it's really hard. We have the two timelines running side by side, and sometimes it's sort of hard. Do you ever feel like sometimes you don't know what year you're in, like that? You just know you're existing here right now. You know you're here, but you lost that. For a moment, you lost the concept of time and space. That's sort of the time we're in now because of that big leap that we're just about to go into. It's a big leap of consciousness, but it's actually a physical leap as well into next density level. So after those 6 cycles, then we have like a big leap, 7 and 8, what do you call them? Spheres, or not spheres, they're called octaves. They're leaps. So we do big leaps instead of just like, slow activation and, just the usual thing, we do a big leap in time. And that time is now. So time seems a little bit just, not the usual, not how it felt before 20 years ago, when it felt like more solid, So the monadic currency or the monadic currents are really, really important right now because they're connected directly to our monadic templates, which are beginning to activate again, which carry 12 nodes. And each of those nodes interfaces directly with one of our 12 strands, DNA. Now, there's something called vortices, and that's the plural form of a vortex. So they're like little branches that come together of energy, and they form a vortex, or like a station, a wheel, they call it a chakra, but it's a smaller version of vortex. So there's many vortices in our body and in the planet and everywhere in the arcs, and these bring energy through to the planet's shield and to us. They're all connected. They bring the arcs into the DNA. Okay, and this is how we activate. Without these arcs, we cannot activate. Without the vortices, we can't activate. Now, the Yuga cycles that I spoke about in the second segment, the second part of this podcast, is they're actually the genetic time codes. They're like the timestamps. Each integration happens in a different time-space vector. Okay, they literally control the pulse rate of our consciousness and how fast our apartheid and our flashing on and off scalar wave templates can hold frequency. So in other words, it literally controls the speed of the shield accretion. That means how fast the Merkaba can spin. So these vortices are just as important as the arcs, just as important as the whole template, because they determine how much you can accrete in terms of energy and frequency and the speed of your Merkaba. This is all a part of the Maharic shield and your capability to run your frequency and align with the right arcs. When the arcs don't run, and we've experienced this for a very long time, the arcs were, static, like static net field, which means they didn't generate new energy all the time. It's like when your swimming pool pumps stop working. There's no new fresh water coming through. It's the same thing, but there's no new energy coming through. It's just a static field, net field, where the rotation of these vortices literally stop. They come to a standstill. That's a scary thought because that's like being cut off from the supply. There's no new supply. So yeah, it's a pretty scary place to be. Now, just something I want to share with you, because I find that it's appropriate to mention here, is I hear people say, without naming names, but I hear people say that they're actually going to disconnect their chakras. Okay, I don't even know how that's possible, but that's what these influencers are saying, and sadly, thousands of people are buying into it. And they're saying that they want to disconnect their chakras because their chakras are being, they're being invaded or infiltrated. So I don't know, how can anyone take out a chakra when a chakra, first of all, I don't know how that's possible, energetically speaking, but let's suppose it's possible. Why would anyone take out a chakra, which is a vortex, connected to the arcs, connected to your DNA template, and it's literally what keeps you alive? I'm not sure that this can be done, and why would anyone want to disconnect? What would the purpose be? If the primary concern is that there is a fear of a Metatronic takeover and a possibility of getting caught in the electrostatic net field, let's suppose that's true. That's fear is, rational and, legitimate, how can anyone sever their connection with the monadic template, just out of fear? Why would anyone do that? Why would anyone choose to sever the connection with the crystal seed atom, like consciously sever their connection with the crystal seed atom? So I'm just bringing that into awareness, your awareness, because at the end of the day, it's your choice what you do with your own vessel. But it's something that I would not advocate and definitely not suggest, because we're disconnecting from those arcs that they have not served us well in the past. We know that, but now's the wrong time to do this, if at all that's possible, if it's something that can be done. I'm not sure the mechanics of how it's done, but yeah, it's not something that I would recommend. I hear that a few people who actually were on the Christic path, still are on the Christic path, they actually bought into it, and they're thinking about getting it done. And if you ask me, I'd say absolutely not. Know where there is a chance of infiltration. If your intention is pure, if you disconnect from these energies, and if you practice good energetic hygiene and do your work and clear your fields and clear the miasmas, activate using 12D shield for shielding, and then activate your radial body and your flame body, there is no way your body can be infiltrated. The reason it was infiltrated before is because you had no awareness of your potential. You didn't know what your body can do. You gave your power away, consciously or unconsciously, to others to govern your body. And now that there is this collective wake-up call and people are actually listening and waking up, then I'd say the chances of that happening is becoming very, very slim. So it's not something we should worry about too much if we're doing the right practices. And I suggest that you begin doing that. Clear your body. And I spoke to that in the first part of this podcast, talked about how clearing is more important than activating, because you have to clear the field and create a nice, clean, solid foundation before you start to activate. Very important. Anyway, talking about the planet spiral now, like I said in the first segment, the top part, the tetrahedron part, the top one, the electrical, of the planet's Merkaba, is beginning to spiral. It's beginning to spin, which means now we can regain our genetics and go back to the first, prior to the first seeding, which was 5.5 million years ago. So we can go back to that time before the first, before the second, and the third seedings now. So we can go back 5.5 million years ago and restore our genetics. This is literally a rebirth. 2012 marked the beginning of that rebirth. And it's literally a birth of something new, which is not new, but new to what we know is new. We've never experienced that as far as we can remember. It's meant to be, 2012 was meant to be the start, but yeah, like I said, it actually began before 2012 with the resetting of the monadic pattern. Something really interesting will happen. We will going to begin to remember a lot of things. Many of us are remembering, myself included. I remembered some of my experiences in Atlantis, and it wasn't pleasant, but I did remember. And, a lot of things are just coming online right now. So we're going to, because we're aligning and resetting a monadic pattern. That's the original pattern before we had, before we developed amnesia. So it's an interesting thing. It's a very exciting thing. We're beginning to remember a lot of things that we've forgotten, and things that we could do before, effortlessly do, like conscious astral projection. That's coming back. The crystal dream seed in the brain connects to the monadic current, which is direct from the echo levels, and they form particulae and particum particles that then work their way through the template, and then they start to spin the Merkaba, our personal Merkaba. However, if the person's not aligned in the vertical axis to the universal shield, that means they will go out of alignment and they'll spin, but they'll spin the wrong direction, causing a alignment to something else, another shield, another template. It could be the Metatronic, or it could be one of the fallen matrices. Also means that they can't hold the monadic frequency. Once they're out of alignment, they're unable to hold that monadic frequency anymore. It could be a planet or a human, and if that happens and they go out of alignment, at best they'll be able to run a low frequency or a subharmonic of a slightly higher density, like a 10 at best, a substrand 10, but definitely not a 12. As for humans, we have the exact same replica of the universal monad running through our Cathara grid. These arcs, they leap through many gates, okay, through the Eka, through the universal, through the galactic, the metagalactic, and they come down to even solar and planetary, then personal level. So essentially, you are as above, so below. That's the universal law. It is an example of how this actually manifests and plays out here. Everything comes together here. Now, when people say, when I die, I will ascend, or when I die, I'll make different choices, or when I die, I'll have peace. And that's where, rest in peace comes in. My suffering will end, and this and that. So all these things that we assume come with death, as death is just going to eradicate all our problems and adversities and everything like that. Well, guess what? This doesn't happen. It doesn't happen like that, because there is no death. As you know, it is a transition. It's all happening in the now. Death, the way we understand it to be, is not an end to anything. It's not an end to suffering. The end to suffering, in fact, begins in the mind, here. It begins here. It's a conscious decision to end your suffering. It begins here, right here where you are. It starts by writing the inner arcs first, recalibrating, redefining concepts and beliefs that are keeping you in that mindset, that the grass is always greener on the other side, that the mindset that wants you to die first so that you can have a better life. This is what we've been brainwashed to believe, that we have to die so things can improve. Everything triangulates here, yes, but everything also gets transmuted here. Everything coagulates here, separates here, meets here, comes together in fusion. Fission and fusion happens here. There is no escape. There is no separation between the physical and the metaphysical and the spiritual. It's on one field of consciousness. It's just different frequencies. Now, when you came here, you committed to this. You had a choice before your last fall, and you agreed to come here. So what are we escaping from then? When we come here, we have to face the challenges, the physical pain, it's not always easy, and it's probably a very difficult thing, especially when you're awake. The reality, the illusion, you're separated from the creator. You feel the pain, you feel that longing, you feel at many times you feel alone, even when you're surrounded by crowd of people all your life and you still feel that longing, that's the separation from yourself. That's the separation from the old you that was once upon a time in its full Christic shape. You know, when we were fully attained, we fell. We fell because we dropped in frequency. Nevertheless, we can't hate this experience because it's part of our journey. It's part of what makes us who we are. We can't escape from the physical and assume that the spiritual is better. We need to come here in a physical manifestation and put the pieces together, because it is here where things solidify and become tangible. So here is a point of the fission and fusion where all things become what we're here to do. This is the work of the alchemist. This is a fission and fusion. This is like, you know, coming here and working with energies, being the magician. And you have these control centers that you need to identify and recognize within you that operate everything. You need to become aware of, you know, the Azurite point, which is the throne of power, the nomadic center, which is the regulatory center in the brain, and things like that. And the nomadic pattern is what we're here to restore. This is why you're here, to restore your nomadic pattern. They're fancy concepts if you were just to look at them like, you know, they're beyond your reach. But once you start working with them, you'll realize that they're tangible and they give you actual physical experiences when they begin to activate. They have a physical structure. In fact, nothing's beyond your reach because it's right here, now. And it's all within. So, like I said in the first segment, activating your organic Merkaba, number 1, aligning to arcs and shields, number 2, and 3, activating the flame body. This goes without saying that all 3 need to be sort of, you know, working with them together. I don't think the order matters too much, but I might be wrong. Anyway, go with what you think is right. But it's important to, like how I see it, is just do a little bit of each one, and they sort of link together anyway. Now, the important thing though is removing seals. Removing seals are like all these crystals that have been put into the body, some to limit the frequency that we are creating, because it was, you know, risky at the time when there was not enough consciousness to process the energy. And some were put by the negatives in order to cap our potential. However, right now, the doors are wide open and we're able to reach these frequencies that we haven't had access to for a long time. And once activated, we're able to move between these density levels and, like they say, leap through space. The gates are wide open. I did talk a little bit about the crystal dream seed, I think in the first, maybe the second as well. But it is said that the crystal dream seed is the secret for manifestation. It is a regulatory center and it's in the brain, and it's our connection to the monadic frequency. It regulates the fight and flight responses, which are the natural instincts that we hold. There's just natural instincts. The sleep patterns, it regulates the endocrine, the pineal functions, and much more. Now, when this center is shut off, what happens is there's electrical currents start to misfire. So they start to shoot in different places and just really in an erratic way. And okay, so there's no like order for these currents. And when those destroyers, I call them, reverse the shields, here they reverse the east and west. They reversed east and west. And what ended up happening as a result of that is we became attached, because we have to be attached to something of a higher nature, we become attached to the blue fire sword of Archangel Michael, which is a Metatronic sword, and which holds vortices that run on reversal. They run on D13 reversal, which is D7 and D5 in reverse. That makes D13 complete reversal. This is also the symbology that you see in the reverse sword and the reverse cross that you see in like a lot of satanic worship circles and Illuminati circles and things like that. They use the reverse sword because that represents the D13 reversal current of Archangel Michael that is meant to entrap us, you know, into that Metatronic reversal patterns and currents so that we don't complete our Gathara journey, okay, upward spiral journey. So the monad is our connection to the arcs through which we can run frequency harmonics and octaves. We're able to get the monadic template back. It's said to have taken place since 2012 or maybe even before that. This is what is known as the Great Purge. Those of us holding greater than 31 to 33% Christic frequency have an opportunity to reverse the misalignment by phase locking it with the natural Gathara template. This is like a realignment. This is why this mission is called Christos Realignment Mission, because we're realigning our template. When we realign something, one has to consider, it's very important when we realign something, one has to consider the karma and the shadow body, of course. So picture this, if you will. You're trying to stick a very heavy, dense body riddled with shadow implants to a pure, divine Gathara body, okay? And picture the two coming together, okay? Just picture one heavy, one light, and they're coming together, okay? You can imagine that this will bring a lot of pain, discomfort, side effects, etc., all arising from that fusion, right? It is like akin to mixing muddy waters with clean waters. The muddy is way too strong and almost always takes a long time to settle. But at least you know you can get a correct alignment and heal yourself and heal Earth and everyone around, including animals and plants. So this healing and purging process, once it's phase locked, it will not move out of place again, as long as it remains connected to eternal life. So when one's personal grids drop below 31% Christic imprint, they will not be realigned due to the extensive fragmentation in their Gathara grid. So they'll fall into the fallen matrix system, as you see this happening a lot right now. A lot of grids and people are going down that fallen time matrix system. So the last time we had this level of activation was 5.5 million years ago. The Morda Adore is a code. So it's a beautiful design, a code. It's meant to connect us to the monadic shield. We can activate the distorted shields, but instead of activating one at a time right now, we have an opportunity to activate all of it at once. But there will be physical symptoms because we hold miasmas and, things that shouldn't be there, seals and that sort of thing. So when we begin to activate, the energy is going to flow in the body and there's going to be some discomfort and maybe some uncomfortable side effects. But you'll notice sensations in the areas that activate. You'll start to feel warmth in the body, hot feet, tingles in the spine, tingles here in the heart space, and you will feel it in the anchoring spot. So where the energy is anchoring, you're going to start to feel sensations there. So the first center that brings the monadic current through the brain is first priority. And it's the first that got distorted due to misalignments. It's called the Adore complex. The Adore complex, or Dori complex, it is made of, pineal gland, which is the Rajna or the Agnya in Sanskrit. It's the pituitary gland, which is the master gland. It is the thymus. It's the optic nerves and branches and things like that, and the hypothalamus. Now, this is just personal observation, but I feel like also there was major distortions that were run through what is known now as vagus nerve and through caduceus implants. So you know the snake representation that wraps like that, and then it's got two heads at the top. I feel like these implants were run through the vagus nerve, which is considered like a artificial system, induced, not organic to the body, and caduceus implants. They're taught through New Age and Eastern philosophies. This is why you see everything in reversal. Day is night, night is day. Left is right, right is left. This is why our sleeping patterns are out of whack. Our natural biological system is suppressed, and we're unable to receive proper information directly through the monad. Our ability to remember and recall memories is massively, massively diminished. You know, sometimes we can't even recall what happened the day before, let alone millions of years ago. You know, and if someone's telling us a story about how they remember from 25.5 million years ago, or 10,000 from time of Atlantis or whatever, you know, sometimes people, you know, laugh at you. They think that you're trying to be cute or funny, or, you know. So that's how these things are looked at. It's like, who can remember that far? That's impossible, you know. Or when a child remembers, my son remembers when he was a baby, events and things when he was a baby, little baby, you know. I think he said it was, I can't remember, but 4 or 6 months old. He remembers things, and I was so surprised that he remembers, you know. But I can understand that when babies are born, they still, even though at day 100 they are interface with the Metatronic pattern or template, they still have a lot of that memory intact. And they as they grow and get you know, the ego kicks in and the identity, and then the world's brainwashing and programming and all that, these memories are wiped, completely wiped. And that's a sad thing. But now we have an opportunity to reverse all that and get our natural biological system back. Before it was suppressed. When we had access to proper information, and that's when our ability to remember and recall things was pristine clear. Similarly, our ability to speak the original language of the Anunnakis is also extremely difficult right now, which is why we taught several reversal languages, because our brain can no longer align with the ancient codes before these reversals took place. So our memories to the reversal monad current affected our memory centers controlled by the hypothalamus. Also, the kids and adults that are dyslexic, their dyslexia is coming from the fact that they're trying to bring their template back into alignment. So because they're taught everything in reverse, they have a bit of a dyslexia because they're trying to return their template into alignment. Everything, it's all to do with alignments. Especially, this is another thing too, is pay attention to how you sleep at night and what your body's aligned to. They say that you must align yourself to the true north, not the fake magnetic, because our magnetic north right now is not aligned to the perfect magnetic north, you know, that aligns with the sun at 12 degrees, 12, yes. So it's not aligned. It's aligned to Wizardic, and it's aligned to Polaris and Nibiru Phantom, and these are coming together. So it's completely out of alignment. So when you are aligned with magnetic north, you're getting a double zap. So that's not good. What they say you need to do is to compensate for that 23.5 degree tilt, is align yourself to the true north, which I will talk a little bit about in a bit. So I just want to cover a few other things before we get to that part. Now, here's another interesting observation that I made, is that the word meant, so like when we talk about alignment, meant means mind. Align is like saying a line. So it's like saying, it's like it's a partial anagram, or a word complex to mean like a line from the mind. So it's like saying the mind is where everything meets, in the center of the brain, not without the heart, of course, and not without the higher codes and all the lines and arcs and everything. It's all connected. When it comes to clearing those arcs and the inner arcs, and well, of course we have to begin with the inner arcs before we do the work out there. We have to clear our inner field. These J seals that I've talked about in one of my other podcasts, it's they're implants. They're inserted into the axiotonal lines on the left side. So you have a pineal gland not only toxified but also blocked from receiving those monadic frequencies due to the misalignment with the correct arcs. So, there's no way we could have received correct information. People say they channel and things like that. I don't know about that, because if you're not aligned to your monadic template, then what are you channeling exactly? Essentially, our healing would mean aligning with monadic currencies, and that's where we begin to heal. We'll start to remember to speak, Anahazi, memories come back, sleep patterns change, pineal gland will activate, and what we do is we recode the whole template. That's the healing we're doing. We will regain the 12D system and the whole new set of codes that goes with the 12D system. From sound to light frequencies to perceptions to new everything and everything in between, okay? And something else I want to share with you here regarding language. I think you'll find this interesting. When I was in my teens, 15, 16, maybe 14 to 16, 17, I was trying to really perfect my English, because it's my second language, but I was speaking English sort of on and off, for about 5 years before that, in my primary school, and then into high school. I'm just trying to remember, because I actually did high school overseas. And then for the next 20 years after that, I was also speaking, trying to perfect my English. So you can say, like, from when I was like 15, I was trying to perfect my English. There's no such thing as perfect, I know, but like getting it to a point where it's like, okay. And until now, I still find it really difficult to have, the correct pronunciation at times. Many times my English words, even after 2 or 3 decades of trying, I still struggle with pronunciation. I still feel it now. I know what I want to say, but the words feel like they really lag. And this is why sometimes I have to say, and things like that, because I have to think about pronunciation, and I sometimes have to literally like push the words out. When I speak English, another thing that I feel is my jaw actually starts to hurt, because I feel the language is really heavy. That didn't happen when I learned Sanskrit. I flew with Sanskrit. I was flowing, I was singing in Sanskrit, and I was doing that for like a good hour nonstop, and I wasn't feeling pain. But when I do this podcast and I speak for like an hour, I'm
really having to massage here, and just doesn't feel like my organic language, my natural language. I'm not suggesting Sanskrit is an Anahazi language, but I know for a fact that it's one of the, more ancient languages, certainly more ancient than English. I personally feel Sanskrit is connected to Anahazi. I'll give you an example, like in Anahazi we say Patikai and Patikam. In Sanskrit we say Purusha and Prakriti. So it's a similar sort of concept, and similar words are used. In Anahazi we say Yuga. In Sanskrit we say Yugas. And so there's many more. I could write a list, and I might one day, just to see how the two compare. Anyway, just something to do. Anyway, Anahazi feels natural and organic to my brain. I certainly don't feel a tongue twist like English. And one of the worst ones is classical Arabic, which I also learned. And funny enough, I became fluent in Arabic, classical Arabic, but I just could not survive for too long. It was like a tongue twister, jaw pain, and, anyway, quite interesting. Why don't you share your native language below? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. It's a really interesting thing that, I'm really interested in and fascinated with languages. But I always felt since I was young that there was something more. There's some other language that we don't have access to. We're not remembering for some reason. I always felt that. And when I found the Anahazi language, and I'm nowhere near proficient in Anahazi or anything like that, I can sing the song of Lyra and Aurora and others, but not Aurora, Orion. But I can't, I can't remember the meanings of the words and things like that, like I do with, obviously English. So anyway, what I want to share as well is just share a little bit about some experiences I've personally had through dream state. The reason I'm sharing is because it's relevant to what we were talking about today, about remembering. Lately, I've been hearing names of people in my dreams. Sometimes these people, I don't recognize in the face, but they have a name, and I dream of the name. It comes clear, crystal clear. And then the next day, these people would cross my path, and I don't know who they are. And it'll just be like, oh, hello, it's Johnny. And I'll be like, oh, I dreamt of that person. Like, I've seen the name, Anyway, and there's something else that happened too, is not long ago, maybe a week or two even. Matt told me in my dream, and it was so crystal clear. He said, in the dream, that is, he said 3 things you should abstain from. He named them, and he said one of them is meat, second is dairy products, and a third is pumpkin. It's a funny one. I thought it was strange that he mentioned those 3 things, but when I woke up and the next day, I forgot to mention it to him, and we were in the car and driving on the road, and a big truck with cattle in it, passed us on the roundabout, and he said something like, oh, there's poor animals, we should, really abstain from meat. They're so precious, their lives too. And we are vegetarian, by the way. But at times, he does a lot of like proactive work and bodybuilding, things like that. Sometimes he's missing the animal diet. And anyway, and he sort of like just threw that in there, said we should really, abstain, and it's good that we do abstain, or something like that, he said. Anyway, I thought, wow, that's one of them, that's the meat. And I wonder if he's going to talk about the other 2, but just about, as I was beginning to recall the dream, to tell him about the dream, the next thing he said was that we should also avoid dairy to preserve our teeth. And at that point, I was just like, I was silent and I was shook and I was like, what is going on? Where's this going? There's one more left, which is a pumpkin. And at that point, I fully recalled the dream, exactly how it happened. And I said to him, I said, in my dream, you said 3 things we should abstain from. And he just could not believe it and how accurate this was, except for the pumpkin, which we thought, okay, well, that's not going to happen. Like, why would he say, abstain from pumpkin? Especially that it's not something we regularly buy or even interested in. Like, it's the bottom of the list with, like, when it comes to veggies. Anyway, I thought this was interesting and a bit funny too. Later during that day, I went out to a storage unit where we keep documents and things like that in filing cabinets that we don't use regularly because we've moved like 3 times in the last 2 years. So we have like a little storage unit where we put all the things that we don't need every day. So in the storage unit, I have like a memory box. People call it glory box, but it's just, memories and things like that, which are like so old. And in it, I have pictures and old diaries for like 20 years of all like 5 of us. I was drawn to the box, and out of curiosity, it's actually a really heavy box to carry around. And we decided we'll leave it in the storage unit, but out of curiosity, I'd wanted to open it. I just drawn to it. It hasn't been opened for 5 or 6 years. So I open the box, I shuffle through the papers, and I find myself with 2 diaries in my hand, one dated 2000, one 2001. I take them both out, and out of sheer curiosity, I just go, okay, 2001, what was I doing? How was I thinking? And I open one of the pages and I see a lot of scribbles in several languages and things like that. But the first word that popped up, and I still remember its position, like on the left side and like maybe 4 or 5 sentences down, lines down, the word pumpkin. I was like, what? I cried a little bit, not like I wasn't bawling my eyes, but I was like, oh my God, that's the strangest thing, but also so fascinating and proof. Like, it just confirmed things that spiritual and physical planes are not different realms. And, where did my soul go last night? I must have astral projected into that box, seen the word, and knew that we were going to drive and Matt was going to say something about meat and dairy. And then, so, and if you're wondering why I had the word pumpkin in my diary, it was actually one of my language assignments. I had to translate a recipe into a second language. So I had the pumpkin and something else recipe in there. Anyway, twice before that too, in a matter of a few years, I and Matt had the exact same dreams. We both were lifted into like a vortex of energy. We went through like a gate. It looked like a golden mandala. And we were merging, swirling. And as we were swirling, we're leaving behind like a trail of light pink with yellow and a bit of blue behind us. It was tracing, it was tracking, like it was behind us as we were being lifted up and swirling. And I think these experiences are like mystery at the time, but now I understand them a lot better, and they should be like ordinary experiences to all of us. I feel that they should be a part of the norm. I feel like these experiences will be more heard of when we start to realign with the arcs and when dimensions start to blend together. You can just, have a little sleep and then just direct your soul to go to some place that you want to visit, and voila, you're there. I feel like we can consciously begin to do astral projection very soon. And one day I will share more fascinating things, but there's this one more thing that I want to share. I know this session's not about me, but I feel like I probably won't get a chance to share these, and I haven't shared these before, but they're so relevant to what we're talking about. I feel like I need to, for some reason. My favorite vision was a few years back. I think not a few years, more than that. I think it was like in 2016 or 2017. I had a vision of Earth splitting, and then it kept splitting and splitting and splitting, but each split is an exact replica of the one before. And each time it splits, it was flashing on and off. And the Earths that replicated from that first Earth actually became attached together to like what do you call it? The roller coaster? Like one of those roller coaster. I'm not sure what you call them, but they're like, they go around, because I don't ride those. Just go round and round like that. But each Earth had attachment to one of those metal bars that hold it. And there was like all these Earths, and by the time the dream finished, there was like an infinite number of them. And they were going round and round and round in infinite loops. And what was really, really interesting is that only one of them was awake to what was happening, while the others were just in sleep, sleeping. And it was mesmerizing, because it really gave me the idea that, and that's before I knew anything about Christic teachings, it sort of opened my eyes to the possibility that we, first I started to ask questions like, are we living in a simulation, or, what's happening? But now I understand that every time the frequency accretes, you're being recreated, and then there's another version of you, and there's an infinite number. And if you're connected to eternal life, there's an eternal number of you replicating yourself. Like, it's just mind-blowing stuff, Anyway, back to alignment. The direction we sleep in has to do with the quality of the dreams that you have. It's to do with aligning yourself properly to true magnetic north, so taking into account that 23.5 degree shift. So Ash says that you need to sleep at 293 degrees northwest, which means your head is in 293 degrees northwest, to align yourself with the solar, galactic, and planetary spirals and the ecocenters. So this will create a full circulation while you sleep. It is said that this will give you protection from the black hole system. Also opens up the arcs that go through the shield, and as we begin to fill in frequency with the heliothalics, we can rebuild our connection with the arcs. So this solar system will return to the inner crystal alignment through that monadic connection. What's interesting now, what's the date? It's 9 August. What's happening now is we're coming into a magnetic peak, okay, which is related to the planet's magnetic peak, according to their calendar. And you know what I'm talking about, not our calendar, the Christic calendar, but their calendar. So there is a magnetic peak that's happening with the planetary Merkaba. When the planetary Merkaba reaches its fastest spin rotation, which amplifies all types of like scalar projections. So the primary peak occurs, which has already started because we're the 9th. It was started 7th and finishes by like August 16. 12, the day, the 12th of August is the climax point. This is the Monday here in Australian time. They occur yearly, okay, in August, same time. But the stronger peaks occur every 20 years, whereas the strongest years occur every 100 years. So the strongest 100-year magnetic peak occurred on August 12, 2003. That's when Ash was giving those workshops, and she talked about it then. that's when they intended for that dimensional blend experiment to take place, which I talked about in the first segment. You know, that object that was coming through between Earth and the Sun, that was a part of blown up Monadic that was going to be like reverse everything and create a beast machine that was going to eat up universes. That's called the blending experiment. That happened in August 2000, or was meant to happen in August 2003. Two other events that many of you are familiar with also happened on the 20-year mark, which is the Montauk Project in 1983. So you can look that up if you don't know what that is. And the 1943 Philadelphia experiment as well. Now, what's coming now, we don't know, of course, but I have a feeling, and I don't want to give it energy because I don't want it to be like, manifesting and putting energy into it and, but I have a feeling that now what's happening in the UK and these places, I feel like something is going to amplify. There's something that's going to happen of the nature of like divide and conquer. And let's not give it energy. Let's send it healing, Christic energy, and let's just do that. Because if we think about, what's going to happen and then put negative thoughts into it, I believe that it will manifest. This is how they get us to, have fear about something and then it manifests. That's part of the agenda. So these experiences about time travel and astral projections and things like that, when we get premonitions and things like that, they're all the byproducts of aligning to your Christic template and your Monadic template. And these experiences that I've shared with you, they're not unique to me, because it happens to everyone. I'm sure you've got a lot of those examples, and I'd like if you share with everyone if you're happy to do that. They're experiences that are going to be the norm as we enter this new phase of consciousness. They're going to be happening more frequently, especially after flame body activations. So now flame body activations, I want to talk a little bit on that because I'm dedicating a whole podcast, a whole segment on that. I can't promise when, but soon. Now, it is one thing you need to remember is it is so important to perform the techniques. I'll make sure to give you detailed descriptions on flame body activations techniques so people understand precisely why it's important. But when we activate the flame body, we activate what's called the silver sanctum, and that's when the D5 and the D7 reversals, they depolarize. So they come together and they activate the D12 frequency, which then forms a silver sanctum bubble, which is the protection frequency around the radial body, and then the emerald flame activates. The Eros body also activates with the flame body activation. However, that can't be activated fully without sparks coming in from the personal monad. The personal monad is a connection below the feet, above the head, but it's also the head, the tailbone, and these places where it anchors. There are these areas, if you want to go higher with flame body activations and hold the frequency more permanently, there's things we need to do beyond the flame body activations. So I'll be talking a little bit more, what I know, obviously, about this, and just give you a little more tips and more in-depth observations, analysis, things like that. So it may help you. But one thing to remember when you activate your Monadic template is you reciprocate with Earth, which in turn reciprocates with people who need it, who may not carry enough charge or be consciously aware of their own template. So it's like helping people in need who are struggling right now to do this. This is precisely why the indigo shield specifically helps thousands or whatever that number is, because of how high the indigo shield, the indigo frequency is, and it's got a capacity to run through many other shields and charge them all. Okay. Now, I'm aiming to make that technique video by like next month or month after. I want to also recreate the J-seal clearing technique. So there's a few things that I have in mind. There's so many topics I want to cover first that form the groundwork required for anyone who is serious about ascension, activating the radial, the flame body, and Christic monadic templates. This is big, but this is a pleasant and unique journey. So treat it like it's a sacred gift. Honor the gift. Honor the path you're on. Express gratitude for the gift you have been given. Not everyone has access to the gift, is aware of their gift. It's something unique to you, and it's a rarity. It's actually something that hasn't happened for a very long time. So treat it like it's sacred. It's a sacred gift. I'm certainly one of these people that are forever grateful for the return of the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order teachings this time. The Emerald Order is back. We're back. This is it, the right time. It's never been a more exciting, a greater time than now for at least the 5.5 million years. So this brings me to the end of the segment. We love you, we see you, we honor your divine presence, divine souls. And with this note, I end this segment. So until next time, stay blessed, stay well, and stay aligned to your monad. Much love.